The next step in the design, I want to design the kitchen. And what I have on the screen is a ray trace of a kitchen that's pretty similar that we've done for the design. Let's take a look at the steps involved to create this kitchen. Close this. I've named all the rooms in the design with the exception of the room that is going to be our kitchen. I'm going to highlight that with click of the mouse and then double click and open it up. Choose the name Kitchen from the drop-down. You can always override that if you don't like the names that we provide for you. Again, if you want to change the attributes about this, platforms, finishes, this is where you would do that, moldings, wall coverings. So I've named the room Kitchen, and you can see the label that has displayed. I can also display the interior dimension with that if I want. That layer is currently off for this design. With a 3D overview, let me zoom around and let's take a look at the space for the kitchen. And effectively, I want to create the main kitchen wall here, and then we'll come out and build our island. And the first step that I'm going to do is open up my library, and I'm going to begin with placing a cook range and our cook hood, and then we'll design around that off of this back wall. So in the library, again, I'm primarily using my user catalog. I've created favorite folders for common things that I use. I've created a common favorites folder for this house that I've called Modern Bungalow. And I've copied some of these things in there that I use for the demo just to make it efficient. Again, if you want to use manufacturer appliances, we provide those in the library. You can go to our website, download those. Many of the manufacturers also have them available for download, and we have an easy import tool that you can pull those in. In my kitchen folder underneath my favorite library in the Modern Bungalow, I'm going to begin with our commercial range. And once I select that, you get a preview of that. And I'm just going to go ahead and place this. And maybe just a note worth mentioning, some of the manufacturers like to have very, very detailed ranges or objects that they represent, which is great for them. But oftentimes there are a lot of surfaces with those. So if you're finding that your plan begins to slow down, that could be a suspect. You can always click on the object and get details about how many surfaces there are. With the range, let's go ahead and slide that over here just a little bit. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to place my cook hood. And I'm just going to place this over here. And then use the center tool. I think you'll find the center tool is oftentimes your friend. We'll center that on the range. And I've got that effectively where I want it. The next thing I want to do is place a cabinet, base cabinet, next to the range. And let's just come in here and we'll place one there. And you'll notice with the cabinet that I placed, it came in with a light wood, a particular countertop, a particular style. Those are defaults that I've set up for my template plan. And if you're using a known cabinet style, whether it's framed or frameless, certain door style, you can set that up in advance and save yourself some time. You can always do that a little bit later when you're finished. Let me close down my perspective view here. And let's open up an elevation view. Close my library too. I'm going to use a wall elevation camera. And we've taken a look at the back clip cross-section or the cross-section tool. The next one is wall elevation. And that's just going to take a look at the wall that we are interested in. When you're in an elevation, a couple tools. One is you can toggle the color on and off. You can also open up layers if you want to turn off electrical or this door opening indicator. Many people don't like the way that looks. You can easily turn those off. I'm going to toggle my color back on. Now when you place cabinets, these cabinets you can modify just like other objects. You can double click on them. and you get full information about that object. You'll notice there are several elements with the tabs up here for door styles, sides and backs, fill styles, moldings if you're putting a custom edge molding on your countertops, custom shapes for the cabinets you can choose from. So I'm going to go in here. Let's go ahead and change that width back into 24 inches. And each time I make a change, you'll typically get an update of the preview. And if you find an object that you don't like in your cabinet, one of the face items, just click on it, press delete, and you've updated it. Now, Chief Architect has manufactured door styles and drawer styles. You can apply those. I'll show that here in a little bit. So I'm going to leave the rest of the information with the box construction. Right now I have a frameless cabinet with a full overlaid door. And note all of the dimensions in here that you can change with that information. I'm going to go ahead and bump that back to the cook range. And now I'm going to use my copy tool because I want to create a similar cabinet right on the other side of the range. And we'll just reflect that around the range. And it may be that you want to change the door style swing, or in this case, let's open this up and take a look. I had removed the drawer on the cabinet before we copied it. But let's say that we want to add a bank of drawers in here. Select the door, and I'm just going to change that to a drawer. And I'm going to give it a dimension for drawer number 1. And then I'm going to come down and I'm going to add another element. And I'm going to choose drawer. This time let's just put in 8. And finally let's take this blank area and we'll convert that to a drawer. So now I've created my bank of drawers. It's very easy to create the different styles of cabinets you want, and create virtually any cabinet that you could get from a manufacturer, and even make it manufacturer specific using the catalogs. I'm going to move on to the wall cabinets. It looks like I may have moved that cook hood when I was doing some editing, so I'm just going to select it, use my center tool, and we'll center that back on the range. Wall cabinet tool. Choose wall cabinets from the toolbar here. And I'm just going to come in here and place this wall cabinet in here. And you'll notice again I've got the backsplash that came in with the cabinet. Again, that's a default that I have set up. Let's double click on this cabinet. And you'll notice here's that option, backsplash to base below, and the thickness. Let's change the dimensions on the cabinet here. And what I want to do is I want to make this cabinet a 48-inch cabinet. I could very easily stretch this in the elevation view. And depending on what you're comfortable with, you can modify it in either a plan view, an elevation view, or open up the cabinet and make specific changes. Choose OK, and that should update. I may not have placed that right over that cabinet, so again, use the center tool and we'll center that right over the base cabinet. And now I'm going to copy that cabinet and reflect it about the cook range. I'm going to come back in here and we'll draw a custom backsplash here in a minute. The next step is to place a refrigerator. I'm going to place a partition in here, and I want this partition to be 84 inches high. Again, you can stretch these to the dimension you're after, or double click on them and enter in the values in here. Since I want my refrigerator to go on the other side, I'll change the depth to 24 inches. And let's go ahead and just snap that over here. I'm going to use my copy tool and I'm going to create another copy of that. I'm just going to slide it out a little ways. Open up the library. Find our refrigerator. Again, I'm using my shortcut list. Place my refrigerator and snap that into place. any of these appliances, if I double click on this, you have dimensions that you can enter in for these. So if you have a client that is bringing existing furniture or fixtures into the design, you can measure those and then accurately represent that in your design plan or renderings. Select our partition, and I will snap that against the refrigerator. And now the next step is to place a wall cabinet above our refrigerator. And let's just go ahead and let's bump that over there, and I'll pull it down. And I want to make that 48 inches. Now when I'm stretching my cabinets out, let me just show you here. That actually bumps in 3-inch increments. You can override that in the defaults, or again, if you double click on it, you can really enter in any dimension that you want for your wall cabinets. As you'll notice here in the height, let's go ahead and change that to 21 inches. And it looks like I need to lower it even further, so we'll make it 18 inches. Now, the next step I want to do is, let's open up that wall cabinet one more time. That's above the refrigerator, so I want to set that to be 24 inches in depth. The 3 wall cabinets that are in the design, I want to place a crown molding on here. If you take a look at the kitchen that we're ultimately designing here, I've got a crown molding that will go around all of our wall cabinets. And to create that effect, I can group select the wall cabinets in the design just by using the Shift click. So I'm going to select the 3 cabinets, and when I have them selected, I'm going to double click on those, and I'm going to come into the Moldings tab here, and I'm going to choose to add a crown molding. I'm going to go into the library of moldings. So these moldings, if you want to draw your own or import those as a DXF file or grab one from a millwork manufacturer off of their website, the program will automatically extrude that in 3D for you. Select this crown, and I'm going to change the dimensions. I'm going to make it fairly large. I'm going to make it 6 inches, and then I'm going to offset that off the top of the box. And now you get a pretty good preview of what that's going to look like here on that wall cabinet. Now, the next step that I want to do is create a custom backsplash that will go behind our cook range and hood. I'm going to use a tool that is called our Polyline Solid, and I'm just going to come in here. Let's zoom in here a little bit. I'm going to come in here and drag out the item, and I'm going to snap that down to effectively the top of the countertop. I'm probably off a little bit. Let's just zoom in here. Didn't pay attention when I snapped that into place. Zoom back out. And now let's go ahead and pull that up to the top of the ceiling, snap that into place. If I double click on this slab, you can enter in the thickness. I'm going to enter in 3/4 inch. Select OK. Then you can also use the material eyedropper, and we can match the backsplash from the other cabinets. Now let's close down our elevation view, and let's take a perspective view of our kitchen. We'll zoom in. So let's take a look at the door and drawer styles. I'm going to open up the library over here on the right hand side of your screen. And in the manufacturers, if you use a specific manufacturer, I've downloaded many of them off of our website. You can go there and find the manufacturers you're interested in. Let's come in and let's grab one of the manufacturers and let's find one of their door styles. And we can just simply come in here. You get a preview of what the door style is, and you can just click on the cabinet. And let's zoom way in here. Sometimes it's helpful to turn on different cameras to get a better representation. It can get washed out, especially over the video. So you can come in here and just simply click through and show the clients what sort of door styles that you can apply for them. Let's see if we can find one that's a little bit more unique. Here's one that has an arched door. And then you can choose the wood species and the finishes. Toggle my camera back to the regular render view. And we'll go into the wood species. So you can choose the specific wood species that you're after and then the finishes. And again, you can come in. Let's grab a color that's a little bit more dark. And I can apply this as either a stain. Now again, it's going to be specific to the manufacturer. So if you're a dealer for those, for one of these companies, you're going to know the specifics of it. But in the program, I can apply that as a stain, which I can still see through the wood grain. Or I'm going to toggle the stain mode off and apply it as a solid paint. And in this case, you can't see through the wood grain, just as paint would be applied. So you can come through here and choose the different colors, materials, and textures and have some fun. You can do the same thing with countertop materials. You can come in here, grab countertop material, and make some changes. Maybe once you get 2 or 3 options, you can do a few renderings for your customers. It becomes pretty easy. Here's an example where the main rendering is cherry, and then we did 2 other options with a white and a chocolate options that you can help the customers visualize what may be the right design preference or color preference that they have. Close that down. Let's go ahead and make a couple of changes to the cabinets. I'm going to grab these 3 cabinets and for the wall, and on the door and drawer style I'm going to come in here and select slab doors. We'll just use a basic slab, and glass is an option. You can also change the hardware if you want to make those changes. We have a library that you can choose from, both again generics and manufacturers. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the base cabinet down here. And let's open up the 2 base cabinets. On the door and drawer style, I'm just using a generic slab doors. And then for the drawer style, we'll also use slab doors. So we have more of a modern frameless look to the design. I'm going to come in and find a color for the cabinets. So I'm just going to use one of the Bear Paint white options, and I'm going to apply that. Well, let's see if we can get a little bit wider. If I like that, I'm going to go ahead and apply that to all cabinets in the room. It's pretty easy to do. And let's find a little bit different color of countertop color. Let's see if I have EnviroGlass loaded. Here's EnviroGlass. I'll browse down and just find a maybe a darker color, and we'll just apply that in the design. Now the next step that I'm going to do is I'm going to dimension the wall elevation. So let's go back into our wall elevation. Again, wall elevation tool you'll find up here. Just cut a section through here. And as long as I'm in here, let's turn off our door indicators for openings. Go into the layers, find opening indicators, remove that. So if you have electrical, you could do the same thing. Now, In Chief Architect, we have automatic dimension tools. One of the automatic dimension tools is the National Kitchen and Bath Association Automatic Elevation Dimensions. You can press that tool. I'm going to change my dimensions to inches. You can press that tool, and this will dimension it as typically the NKBA would require. And you can modify those dimensions, move them around. And I'm just going to show you real quickly. I'm going to undo that. How you can place these dimensions if you want to place them yourself. So, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to dimension through the boxes. I'm going to pull that down. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my centerline tool here. And I've got a shortcut to make sure that I'm only picking up appliances. It's called annotation sets. If you want to look into more of that, we have more videos or more information on that. Centerline tool here. So I'm going to come through here and pick up the center line. Just pull that down. And finally, I'm going to go and use my end-to-end dimension and pick up the end-to-end or wall-to-wall dimension. And that's how I do the dimensions. Now, I want to have enough space at the end of this wall past our refrigerator to put in a bench area. So I'm going to group select all of my items here. And I'm going to enter in the dimension 48 inches so I can move these items over. So I'm just going to enter that in. Now I have space to place a bench nook area for eating. Close down our elevation view. And I'm going to go ahead and save that. Zoom out here. Now again, like we changed our cross-section camera earlier, I can change this elevation camera to make it look more like a call-out. So the first thing I'm going to do is name it kitchen wall elevation. And in the plan display, I'm going to choose to display it as a call-out. And we'll just call it A. And we'll leave the rest of that the same. And maybe I can even slide that in a little bit tighter. So again, if you want to use that tool to use in your plan display, call out for your construction documents, it looks a lot nicer than just using the standard camera. Now for the kitchen island, you saw how we used the cabinet tools and created our wall, our main wall. You can create a kitchen island the same way. Use the cabinets, and then one of the things that I like to mention to people is once you've done some work with your kitchen, let's just bring up another view here. Once you've done work with any of your kitchens here, you can save these components, entire kitchen or grouping of cabinets, into your library and reuse them. So if you've spent very much time creating an island or an arrangement, save it into your library, reuse it. You can unblock it and then customize it for your kitchen that you're working on today. So I have already created the island and saved it into my library. Let's go ahead and explore where I have that in my favorites library. So I'm going to come down into my Modern Bungalow folder in the section of the library, and you'll see here is the kitchen island that I've named, and I'm just going to come in here and place that island in the design. Now when I place that island, one of the things, if I select it, you can now enter in the dimension, and depending on if you've got a 1-cook kitchen or a 2-cook kitchen, you can enter in the dimension. Let's go ahead and set that to be 42 inches. And if you want to use the center tool and center that in the room, you can do that as well. Now the other thing I've done is we mentioned maybe back in this alcove we wanted to have a bench area. Come over to the library. We'll grab our kitchen bench nook. And I'm just going to place it over here and then zoom in. And I'm just going to then slide it into place. That's a blocked object, so sometimes you may want to unblock that, which I'm going to do, and then it becomes a little more easier to precisely locate it. Now once I have that moved into place, I'm going to use my camera view, and we'll take one more peek. Zoom around here, and there's our kitchen.